Welcome back to Walnut Springs. My name is Mike, and today I want to show you how easy it is to remove and install a bike cassette. Let's get to it. Okay, the tools that you're going to need to remove and reinstall your cassette are going to be a chain whip, a cassette remover tool specifically for your type of cassette, and then a 19mm wrench that will work with the cassette tool, along with some grease when we go to reinstall it. Now, a cassette is going to be a little bit different than a freewheel, and if you watched my video on how to remove a freewheel, the process is pretty close to the same, but it's going to be just a little bit different, as the way that this connects in is going to actually be threaded on here instead of actually being threaded to the wheel. So let's go ahead and let's remove the quick release skewer. As you can see, this has a lock ring on it, and this is the portion that is actually holding this onto the wheel, or more specifically holding it to the free hub, which is actually underneath the cassette. This is going to be the tool that we're going to use. It's a cassette remover tool. This one's nice because it slides into the quick release slot here, and then these little splines will actually attach into here on the lock ring. So we just simply slide this in here like that. And to remove this, you're going to need to use a chain whip, because the way that this is actually turning, as you can see when we go counterclockwise, it is actually rotating. It's spinning freely. And with it doing that, that's going to cause it to where we can't actually remove it, because if we try, it's just going to spin. So this is the chain whip, and this is going to actually prevent the cassette from spinning whenever we go to release it. Whenever you put a chain whip on, you're just going to basically put it on just like this. Pick one of the nice middle gears, and then what that will do is whenever you put force on it, pulling back towards you, you'll be able to put the wrench on this to remove this lock ring. Let's go ahead, let's put this on the ground where it's a little bit easier to get some leverage and remove this lock ring. So now with the chain whip installed and on the ground where we've got a little bit more leverage, we can put on our wrench, and you're going to basically pull these two apart. And sometimes it can be locked on quite a bit. Whenever you do go to remove this, you will feel what kind of feels like a grinding feeling. That's completely normal, and I'll show you what is causing that. You might be able to see inside here, there are little bitty kind of rivets or bumps, and those help the lock ring stay in place whenever it's on the cassette. Now you can remove the chain whip. Just be careful, because all these gears are now officially loose. What I like to do is simply set the lock ring on here, grab the cassette from the front and the back, and slowly pull it off. Now, you do want to watch, because sometimes there will be spacers on the back of the free hub that you're going to want to grab onto, and then you can simply just set this down in a safe place, or even better, run a zip tie through it so you don't lose the order of everything. Now that we've got this off, I can go ahead and clean this before I reinstall it. Okay, now that we've got our cassette all fully cleaned up and nice and shiny, we're ready to reassemble it. Now, whenever you go to do this, you're going to want to make sure that you orientate the cassette properly to the hub. As you can see, there are little splines or notches on the hub, and then there's corresponding ones that line up on the cassette. A lot of cassettes will have little arrows indicating where it needs to go. Usually this one's a little bit bigger than the rest of the splines. So let's go ahead and let's put this back on. You're going to want to go ahead and line this up with the splines appropriately, and once you do, it should slide right on there. And now you can take any spacers that you have and put them on appropriately. Some cassettes, all of the gearing is completely separate. This one just has 3 of the gears that are actually independent beyond the actual cassette itself. This last one on here. Here's a good time to show you, these are the little grooves that we saw on this lock ring, and that's what you'll feel bite whenever you remove it and whenever you go to reinstall it. So we'll put this last one on here. Sometimes this one can be a little bit tricky. There we go. And it should sit flush with the free hub. Okay, now that we've got the last one on, we're going to want to take our grease and just apply a little bit to these threads so we don't have any seizing issues or binding issues whenever we go to remove or maintain this in the future. And then, as always, anytime you're starting threads, you're going to want to just start them by hand without the tool. That way you don't have any chance of cross-threading. Now, this particular lock ring asks for a 40 Newton meter torque rating. I don't have a torque wrench that will go that high. So we're just going to basically put quite a bit of pressure on it whenever we go to tighten it down. And you'll pretty much know once you can't move it anymore, it's pretty tight. So we can go ahead and reinstall our cassette remover tool. This is the only tool that you'll need other than the wrench to turn it. You will not need the chain whip because in this direction is where it actually engages as if you were pedaling the bike. So we'll go ahead and put this on here and just start turning it. And again, if you have this on the ground, you can get it really nice and tight. Just to make sure that we've got it tightened properly, I'm going to go ahead and put it on the ground and we can just give it another good push. And there you go. And you will feel those notches in the lock ring kind of clicking whenever you go to install it. Sometimes whenever you go to install it, you can actually hear an audible sound. On this one, it's an older cassette and I've taken it on and off several times. You can no longer hear that anymore. And there you go, that's how you remove and install a cassette. I hope this video helped you out. If it did, hit that like button, leave me a comment below. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. It really helps out my channel. And if you saw a tool in this video that you think that you're gonna need for this type of work on your bike and you wanna purchase it, I'll put some links down below to ones that I recommend. And if you purchase it from there, it helps out the channel. But as always, get out there, run, bike, build, and just have fun. We'll see you in the next one.